Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Conversations with a Vet. My name is Carol Lee, and I will be your hostess this evening. I have a wonderful guest waiting with us here in the wings. But before we get to my guest, a couple things I wanted to talk about that are coming up. The first thing is Mind Over Land. Now, I know you've heard me talk about them quite some time. They are doing their second annual because last year it had been um, canceled due to Hurricane Helene. It is a gathering of veterans along with their families, which normally during the year, the rest of the year, they don't allow, as well as veteran supporters. It is going to be at the Linville Adventure Pastures in North Carolina. Super excited to be going again this year. It's a wonderful thing that they do. I believe the year before last, they had, oh, I don't know, nearly 150 veterans there along with family. So it's a wonderful place. You can go to mindoverland.org and register to go. Tickets are free. It's just so they have a head count. Saturday evening, they'll have a bunch of food trucks. They also have some trail rides. If you have a good overlanding vehicle, you can go on those rides. It's absolutely free. If you don't have, anybody that you want to or that you feel comfortable driving through the trails, you can always hitch a ride with one of them and you're back the same day. So you're not missing out on anything there. So go check them out. Also, a couple of things. So, my guest last week, James Blackwell, he was also a guest previously. He has written a second book. That book is called Gunners, B-29 Machine Gunners in the Korean War. Definitely go check this out and get it out there at Amazon. You can get this out at his website, which is jamesblackwellauthor.com. And it's a great read. It's a lot of history. He'll I know for those history buffs, I think you'd all enjoy that one. The other one is Frank DeMith, his second book, also a veteran defending the Eagle. A great fiction read, and I can't wait for the others to come out because I read this in like less than a day. I mean, it was that good. And then another one that another veteran I hope to have on the channel, Jeffrey A. Sabins, and he has written a book called You Just Survive, Combat Chaos, and the Quiet Battles That Follow You Home. You can go out to Amazon and check this one out as well, and I hope everybody will support our veterans. So let's see, we've got quick shout out G23, thank you. JCL, thank you for being here. Jason, appreciate everybody who's out there. If you haven't, just drop a comment and say hello. And if you're here supporting, thank you very much. I'm going to go ahead and introduce my guest tonight, Noel Lasure, and he is an Army veteran. Good evening, Noel. How are you?
I'm doing well. I hope you are.
I am doing excellent. It's such a pleasure to have you on the channel. Thank you so much for taking the time to come on and tell your story
Absolutely.
and have a
Absolutely.
conversation. So, I'm going to go ahead and just jump right in. And I always ask my guests to tell me a little bit about who you were as a child. So, Noel, who were you as a child?
Um, First of all, I'm going to say hello to everybody and thanks for the comments. I don't multitask well enough to join you in the chat, but I see it. So just kind of put that out there. Uh, I was, I like to say that I was the average boy growing up, right? Born in West Virginia, moved to Middle Tennessee in elementary school, grew up in a, you know, outdoors was life, right? Whatever it was, it's you're hunting, you're fishing, you're spending time outside. It's just a normal country boy life. It was, sports. Um, I played basketball until I realized that there were people that were really good at it, and I was never going to be, and so I stopped that pretty quickly. Football, soccer, baseball, and then ultimately, once you get old enough, you pick one, and football was it. And, you know, uh, I I got into a lot of things, but I realized pretty early that service was kind of my path. And as the average teenage male, I went and became a lifeguard.
Okay.
And there was a pivotal moment. I've talked to people that were lifeguards. Teenage boys, when we're honest, we're going to be lifeguards because we want to spend the summer swinging a whistle and looking at girls, right?
Right.
That's the
Yeah.
truth.
Yeah.
I don't know very many people that'll say it that way, but that's just what it is. And so I was in a lifeguard chair for about 12 minutes on my first shift before I had to go in and save somebody.
Goodness.
And it happened. There was no thought, there was just reaction. And it was over before I realized that it started. Um, and the moment for me that I realized that I could be useful is a couple months later. I happened to be in the mall and I saw that little kid and his dad.
Oh, wow.
And the kid told the dad, he said, "Dad, that's him. That's the guy." And the father came over and shook my hand and thanked me. Now, I've never really done drugs in my life. I kind of just never did. I mean, pain pills are not even something that I enjoy. So, but I understand how a heroin user could get addicted, because if that feeling that day could be bottled and injected, I would still be sitting here now with a needle in my arm.
Yeah.
And that made everything else kind of fall in line. Um, I had spent a lot of time with police officers as a teenager, and I thought, man, that's going to be really cool. That's what I want to do. Got to college and realized they don't make anything. Let's find something else. But if the course load of everything else is boring and I hated it, then, so I made a decision. Let's not focus on the things that make you money that you hate. Let's focus on the things that bring you joy, that, maybe wealth isn't in your path, right? And so law enforcement it was. And I left Middle Tennessee and moved to Texas um, at 21 years old. And part of that is because I'm not saying I was a bad kid. I'm going to say I did everything that a teenage country boy is going to get into, right?
Right. Yeah.
And
Especially when you're out there and left to your own devices. I get it.
right, right. And so I never wanted that event where you pull somebody over for something and they look at you and go, "How are you mad at me when we used to fill in the blank?" Right?
Mhm.
So I went to Texas and had a law enforcement career, and it was everything it was supposed to be. I found I'm helping people. I found all the payback. You know, I look at what law enforcement's going through these days, and I'm like, I get it. Because when everybody's asking why will people volunteer to go do that job, it's because people are still volunteering to serve.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's still uh, Army core values, selfless service. That's something I didn't even know what it. I didn't know the words, but I was living it, because that is, for all the crap you take, the feeling of meeting the person you helped at, on their worst day
Right.
is, it's addictive, and it really is. So, uh, and I did that all through my 20s up to 9/11.
And so you get to 9/11, and was that the pivotal point for you in
Absolutely.
deciding to join the military?
Absolutely. Yeah, I was successful in a career, had made advancements in that career that a lot of people would want, right? Um, and I knew I was doing the right thing, but I felt like I was doing it in the wrong place.
Right.
And so I'm the guy who got to basic training and arrived at Fort Benning, Georgia at 28 years old
Ah, you're the old
to
man in the group.
yeah,
Okay.
listen, I earned every gray you see on me,
I bet
right?
you did. I bet you did.
I've earned every gray I have. And so I um wanted to, my initial input in the Army was, I want to go fly helicopters. And I realized I was old enough when I went in that I looked at it from the perspective of anybody can go do the footwork stuff. I made a decision that I wanted to have a sellable skill afterwards. So I found a recruiter who would work with me. You know, not all of them will, but I found a recruiter who would work with me. And I said, look, I want to go with this warrant officer flight thing. And he said, we don't have anything to do with that. And he happened to be a former 160th crew chief. So he understood the path. And I said, I'll tell you what, I'll make you a promise. If this doesn't work, I'm enlisting anyway. So if you help me get here and it doesn't work, then I'll enlist anyway. Well, I got all the way to go ahead.
Let me ask you this.
Yep.
Did you already just know you wanted to go right into the Army, or did you do any research between the branches?
I did a lot of research, and I was 28, so that's already a cutoff for Air Force. It's not a consideration. I had almost joined the Navy right out of high school. For a long time, they may still have it. I don't know because I don't know very many Navy veterans. But for a long time, they had a electronics tech program, and I made it all the way to MEPS. And looking back, I understand the mistake I made, but the contract that was in front of me was, this is going to be a position that you're going to go through basic, through A school, come back here. You're going to be, your first duty assignment will be at Millington, Tennessee, because that was the depot at the time for electronics maintenance. And what'll happen is you will travel out of Millington to ships or wherever they need somebody to do repairs, and then you will leave and go back. I left MEPS saying, don't send me home. I want to sleep on this. I'll be right back here first thing in the morning with my answer. When I came back, my test scores had made it through the MEP center, and I was pulled out of line by, I'd never seen that much metal on somebody's shoulders and chest, right? So all the upper echelon guys came in and said, let us talk to you about this nuclear program. And I said, no, electronics tech. And they said, no, nuclear. And I said, those are the guys that live 6 months out of the year under the ocean. They never see daylight. No, I'm not. No. And so we separated there. So I kind of had a bad taste in my mouth from that Navy experience. And a lot of it was my fault, right? Because I didn't know how MEPS worked at the time. Still really don't, but having been there now the second time, I kind of get it. And so Air Force was a no, Army was an option. And the Marine Corps, they didn't have guaranteed contracts for jobs. So Army it is. And if you want to fly, if rotor flight is your path, the Army's the only one that has the program, which is high school graduate to warrant officer flight. It's a straight in. Now, it's an extensive program. You have to pass everything, but it's available, right? And so that's what I was going to do. We're going to go warrant officer flight and see what happens. So I took all the tests, passed all the physicals, made it to a board. Made it to the board at 28 years old. 28 is the cutoff. Can't have turned 28. Basically, the board told me at the time, they said, listen, ordinarily, this is not a problem because age waiver is available. So we'll give you an age waiver. Here's the bad news. The bad news is post 9/11, with everybody running to go join up, they weren't going to take waivers for a while.
Right.
They said, so we don't know how long it'll be. Okay. They said, but if this is really your path, this is really what you want. From the enlisted side of the house, 35 is the cutoff for warrant officer flight. They said, so pick a career, pick a job, enlist, make it through AIT, make it to your first duty station, this packet will already be on your record. So when you resubmit, the two will join, you'll make it back to a board, you'll be fine, right? If this is your
Okay.
dream, there's another route to get there. So I went back and I enlisted, and I picked satellite communications because let's say everything on me is broken. This sounds like a job I can sell when I'm 60,
Right.
right? That's kind of what I was looking for. Now I tell people, military is going to get everything out of you they need. Your job is to get everything out of them you need,
Yep.
right? And it's a symbiotic relationship. They get it, you should too. So I was looking for a career. I had that law enforcement thing. Yeah, okay, that's cool, but that doesn't get me into corporate America very well. So let's see what else I can do. And I didn't lie when I enlisted, but I didn't fully disclose in any of my physicals that I had a prior knee injury. Well, karma comes back to find you at some point in life. So high school football, yeah, I popped a knee, had surgery. I was good. I could do everything. I mean, I knew that old age was going to be fun, but in
Right.
the interim, but in the interim, young me was still able to do everything like it never happened.
Exactly.
Well, I get to basic training, and on the last event, right before the march home, I popped the other knee. Not the bad one that I hid, but the other good one, which means my airborne kicker and my flight physical just went away.
Goodness.
Well, it's okay. I'd picked a job that if this is what I have to do forever, I'll be okay in, right? So I thought, you don't know what your job is until you get there.
Right.
And even in the Army, you have a guaranteed MOS, but a lot of MOSs, what they don't tell you is satellite communications has 3 different entities. And it's probably changed now because I saw it changing as I was coming out. But the first one is strategic communications, where they lock you in a box with no windows and you watch lights blink, right?
Right. Right.
Very important job, highly involved, very much a skilled position. Then there's tactical communications. You're doing the same thing, but you're doing it out of the back of a truck in a field, right? And the difference is the guy who's sitting in that building with no windows watching lights blink has a whole bunch of those little truck units that he's actually overseeing and monitoring. And then there's the Space Command side. And Space Command, before there was a Space Force, which a lot of people don't know why that Space Force was necessary. And it's because it was components of that were spread out to all the services. By bringing it all under one umbrella has always made the most sense. It stops infighting. It puts one funding source.
Right.
It really was a genius move. And they oversaw a bigger piece of the puzzle, right? So you don't get to choose which of those paths you're going to take. The Army gets to choose based on how you go through the schoolhouse.
Okay.
So it's kind of like the guy that flies a fighter jet versus the guy that flies a C-130. They both went to flight school at the same time under the same ideas, but only certain ones were picked to go to flight school. Only certain ones are picked to go to Space Command. Only certain ones are picked to go to, and everybody else can go tactical, right? So they kind of pick and choose. AIT was interesting because I didn't know the level of genius that some human beings are capable
Wow.
of. Out of a 12-man graduating class at a year-long AIT, I graduated at the bottom of my class.
Oh,
I didn't
goodness.
have a single test score where I scored below a 92.
Goodness gracious.
I left there feeling like a complete idiot, right? It wasn't until I got to my first unit and got some experience under me that I learned. Have you ever watched The Big Bang Theory?
Yeah.
Okay, normal people don't communicate like Sheldon, but Sheldon exists in the world. Right? Well, in a room full of Sheldons, this country boy felt like a moron until what I learned was the people that you're communicating with to provide communication services for, they don't talk like Sheldon either. So they would rely on me to what I found as a strength that I initially thought was a weakness. I can't do the geek speak side of it. It had to make sense to me. I have to put it in plain country boy dumb English.
Right.
I was able to communicate it to more people. So what I saw as a weakness was I was able to make that actually a strength, because you're not just this high level, answering system. You're actually able to communicate it to everybody.
Right. Well, let me jump in here if I can,
Yeah,
because I don't
sure.
want to get too far off without first asking this question
Yeah, sure.
to you. So you get to, and I'm going to jump back just a little
Yeah,
bit
sure.
to basic training. So you get to your basic training. Um, what was that like for you? Do you recall like your thoughts going through?
Yes. So at 28 and having done, police academy and SWAT school and some other stuff along the way, I saw the game for what it was.
Hmm.
So part of it was when you're getting yelled at. I mean, if you've played football, your buddies have yelled at you like that too, right? If you grew up in the South and your buddy's playing football and you're in the weight room, that's the way you talk to one another. So at least that's the way we did. Um, maybe it's not normal. I don't know. I don't claim to be normal. But I saw the game as a game. And the hardest part was not laughing at
Right.
times,
Right.
right? However, what I also saw was, the simple answer is, if you take, there are videos on YouTube that if you take, people are taking ducklings in a pan and they take them to the water, and the first time they hit the water, they kind of dip and then they immediately know how to swim.
Right.
The Army felt like that for me.
Okay.
At the end of graduation, drill sergeants would come to me, and at that point they kind of know you. They know where they can joke with you, where they can kind of laugh a little bit. And they asked me, they said, "Would you stay here? Like, if your entire Army career was just this, would you stay?" And I said, "Depends." And he said, "On what? On Saturdays, can I go home and get a beer and like have a woman that I get to hug? And then I'll meet you right back here late Sunday night or first thing Monday morning. I wouldn't care." But we went and worked out. We went hiking and camping, and we went and shot guns. And I didn't pay for any of that. They
Oh,
paid me to
wow.
do it. It was fun, right? Now, I did apologize to my father on graduation day. I'd always thought that he may have exaggerated things a little bit when he told stories to his son. And he would tell stories of, when he was young in rural West Virginia, having two pairs of pants and having to walk to school uphill both ways, right? I'm like, Dad,
Right.
it's just, that's not possible. There's always going to be a downhill side. It wasn't until I got to Fort Benning and hiked Fort Benning through the whole process of basic training, I went to him and I said, "It's possible to never walk downhill."
That's pretty fair.
We walked everywhere, and I don't ever remember the easy downhill leg. I remember the uphill, and I don't remember the downhill. So, um, but the biggest thing about basic training
Hmm.
is, if you keep your mind open, you're learning how to work together, learning how to let go of your own needs and taking care of others.
Right.
And that really kind of made sense, right? They're breaking you down, they're building you up, they're making you somebody who can be a member of a team. But if you've played sports, if you've done anything competitive throughout your life, you've done this before.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
just go play the game.
So also when you get to AIT, do you have any funny stories about that? Anything that stands out for you?
Yeah, I was there long enough to see. Um, I've always liked psychology. I've always liked seeing how other people work, right? And
Hmm.
in any job in the military, on the technical side, it's problem solving, seeing how other people solve a problem. And on the advanced technical side, if you walk into a room and you flip the light switch and the lights don't come on, you don't immediately go check the wiring, right?
Correct.
Is is the breaker popped? Breaker's good. What about the light bulb? Is the light bulb good? Because the wires worked the last time you were there. But people, they get so ingrained in what's wrong. And this is in everything in life. It's how do you solve simple tasks? Because that's ultimately what you're there to do. You're there to make something extremely technical sound like something extremely simple, because often it is.
Right.
And so being able to watch people learn how to problem solve was very enjoyable. Um, some of those relationships, uh, I I have one friend who we met in the airport in Atlanta, going to basic. We went through AIT together, and we shared a first duty station together. And so you build relationships, and you're really there to learn your new life. How do you get better at being this? You know,
Right.
um, the frustrations that I see are, well, they still won't give me freedom. Yeah, I get it, but neither is college. A lot of college freshmen that go, you can't have a car. You got to live in the dorm. You've got to, and there are restrictions on everybody that's new. And learning how to earn your place at the table is hard for a lot of people because they just left mom and dad.
Right.
Mom and dad didn't tell them that your place at the table was bought and paid for by me. They just kind of go with it the way they go with it. And so it, I mean, AIT was Fort Gordon, Georgia, and I like to be a tourist everywhere I go. You
Nice.
know, I went to college in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And first thing I asked when I got to Chattanooga, I asked the local guy, I said, "So what's there to do here?" "Nothing." "Well, you live in Tennessee. How many hundreds of thousands of people go to Chattanooga every year as a tourist? There's got to be
Right.
something,
Yeah.
right?" But because it's your normal, well, Augusta, Georgia, I can tell you the best thing to do in Augusta, Georgia is to leave.
Oh, that's funny.
It's really close to Savannah. It's really close to Hilton Head. It's really close to Atlanta. It's a good central point to go do something else for the weekend and come back. There's not a lot outside of the Masters, which happens 1 week a year, and most people in Augusta leave for the Masters. It's just an old town that's, I mean, it's got its own charms. But if you've never been to Augusta, Georgia, you didn't miss anything.
That's funny. So, okay. So now we can fast forward back. So, you, your knee pops and you've decided from that point, what are you doing?
Um, can't go airborne. Can't pass an airborne physical. Well, the first thing I did was, and this is all on me, right? So you get to basic training, everybody does, or you get to AIT, and the first thing any drill sergeant is ever going to tell you is, does it hurt? Or they're going to ask you, does it hurt or are you injured? You don't want to get stuck here on sick hold.
Right.
So if it hurts, suck it up, buttercup, go through. So me and duct tape, we can make this leg straight. I don't have to go see somebody to get this fixed. I can push on. So I left Fort Benning, Georgia,
Uh,
pushing on. I got to Fort Gordon, Georgia, and first words out of their mouth whenever they're welcoming you, you just got off that bus. They're welcoming you and they're saying, "You don't want to get stuck here." Like, okay, I just heard that. Okay. At this point in your time here, there will be your end of cycle PT test, and you need to be able to get through that. Now, after that, you can go see a doc. Great. I'll do that. So for a couple of months, I'm there with a blown knee, but me and duct tape are good friends, right? So I'll go do
Wow.
PT every morning. I'll run. Uh, you're not going to turn in a great 2 mile run time when you're hop bouncing through it, but it can
Mm-hmm.
work, right? You can get through. Um, when I finally went to see a doctor, they said, "Do you know how messed up your knee is?" I'm like, "No." So there was a realization there of, well, maybe if I'd have just done it initially and said something, right?
Yeah.
So life lesson to take away is, maybe you should have it checked. Maybe there's no harm.
Right.
But
Okay. I got to ask this question. Sorry to interrupt.
yep,
Did you like take that duct tape off every day?
yeah.
Okay. I'm just envisioning the excruciating pain of duct tape stuck to leg hairs.
It well, funny enough, after you've done it a couple of times, it's like you went to the greatest waxing spa on the planet. And then after you've done it a couple of times, you actually wind up with some pretty smooth skin that takes duct tape pretty well, and you kind of desensitize the area to the point to where it doesn't hurt anymore. I guess it's like people that get waxed regularly.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people.
Probably hurts really bad the first couple of times, but then after that, it's normal, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm sorry. I just I had to ask that question because I've got a really warped mind.
Well, and I'm clearly body hair is not something that I'm uh, necessarily new to, right? So
Right.
yeah, yeah. No, I am. I just had surgery, and they said that I was an exceptionally hairy human being, and I thank them. So yeah,
You're your own chia pet.
yes, yeah. I get it all the time. Young guys will ask me, "Well, how do you grow a beard?" Well, what I do is I stop shaving. That's rule number one. But the second part is, if I shave this morning, if I sneeze hard before breakfast, I'm gonna have 5 o'clock shadow.
Oh
And
goodness.
so, which in the army that comes in handy because you can't find haircuts everywhere. So I would just shave my head. Well,
Yeah.
if you wear a beret for a living, if your head provides hook side of Velcro and you have that nice wool beret, if you shave in the shower in the morning and whenever you get out, you pull your beret on. By 9 a.m., it's Velcroed on the side of your head, and everybody's like, "How do you make it lay like that?" I'm like, "It's literally Velcroed to the side of my face. Like, it's okay."
Oh, that's great. So from there, you get it checked. What happens next?
Once I knew how bad it was, we got to the point to where they knew we had made it far enough along where we knew where my first duty station was going to be. And right out of school, I was picked strategic. They offered me the Space Command gig, and I went strategic, and I was in Landstuhl, Germany. And when they found out that I was going to be in Landstuhl, they said the hospital there is where we send I mean, that's like the hospital. They said there's only a couple of hospitals in the military system that we would consider that level. So they said, we're going to send you there. You'll get your knee fixed. Okay, cool. Not a problem. So I show up at the first duty assignment, wound up getting my knee fixed. And they said, listen, you'll never be able to jump or fly, but you'll be able to do pretty much everything else and you'll be good. So now they did tell me, as you age, you're now officially bone on bone in your left knee.
Oh.
So as you age, good luck. But I grew up, I was born in 1973. So if you grew up in the 70s and 80s, we watched shows like Grizzly Adams. We watched Steve Austin, the $6 Million Man,
Yes,
right?
sir.
We watched, listen, at this point in my life, I need a really cool car and I can do Steve Austin, $6 Million Man, Grizzly Adams, and the A-Team all wrapped up into one lifestyle.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, cool add-on parts was not something that I was afraid of because the $6 Million Man. Now, I don't think when they replace my knees in the future or my hips, Apparently, I'm going to need both. When I do that, I don't think I'm going to be able to leap over buildings and stuff like Steve Austin did, which maybe they need to fix the sales pitch to kids. But I was
They're just
intrigued.
ahead of their time.
Yeah, maybe at some point. Who knows?
Uh, so okay, and you go from there to what? What happens next?
So I get to Launchstool, Germany, and actually got to settle in and kind of learn my job. Launchstool, Germany has a satellite facility that basically 90 plus. This is on the unclassed side. So more than 90% of all comms in theater you pick it come out of one strategic satellite facility in Germany, and so we were getting, it's fresh, right? So we're getting phone calls from guys who are trying to make communications, who are putting the phones down, pausing because they're actually in an active gunfight.
Oh, wow.
So we didn't see it, but we were touching it because our level of support was directly connected to the guys who were legitimately on the ground establishing things.
Right.
And then I spent a lot of time there, got to play a tourist in Germany.
What was Germany like for you as a tourist?
Interesting. They got rednecks there too.
I think they're all over.
They got rednecks there too. The problem with Germany for me, it's beautiful. I've never seen farmland that well manicured, kept, and beautiful. Farmer doesn't own it. He's only leasing long-term the farming right, the agriculture rights on that land.
Oh, okay.
The federal government owns the land and the farmer leases the agriculture rights, but then somebody else leases the hunting rights and somebody else leases the mineral rights and somebody else leases the forestry rights.
Wow.
And because of the penalties for impacting the other people who are on your land, the farmland there looks like a pieced quilt that is absolutely stunning. It's just beautiful. And it was fun to like go and live in another culture because I didn't live on base. I got to live off base. And to kind of learn, my German still to this day is horrible. And part of that is because, okay, country boy. So when I showed up, I would talk to people and I would butcher German and they would answer back in English. Well, I still didn't think in German, but if you're going to talk English to me, I'm just going to speak English back to you. Right. So I learned really, really quickly. A lot of people in Europe, regardless of the country, if you ask them, do you speak English? Their answer will be a little. Well, their little is a lot more than any version of their language you have mastered.
Right. Yeah.
So go with their little because their little can be very, very good. So, but I also learned how close Germany is smaller than one of our average small states, right? But there's like 800, there's a ton of people, so it's very cramped.
Yeah.
So they take a lot of things in a different way than we do. But just seeing the differences and learning about them, and then being able to also see the similarities. I'm the guy that showed up with a full-size pickup truck to a European nation with little bitty tiny streets because, again,
redneck.
So, yeah, I resemble that remark. So, I was on my way home one day, guys. I lived in a little farming village, and as I'm on my way home one day, there's a cow in the middle of the street. And there's a lot of Germans that are trying to drive around this cow. I parked the truck, got out, and I start herding the cow back into the fence. And this lady stops me and she said, "What makes you think you know how to do this?" I said, if it was the first time I've ever done this, I'd tell you I didn't know how. I said, I didn't live on a farm. But if you live in the country, cows get out of fences. That's what they do.
Right.
And if you walk at them and yell, they will go back and do they find the same hole that they exited from? Usually not, but they make a new one. They're back in the fence. They want to be in there. They're just as upset about being out here as you are about seeing them out here. It's okay. And get this cow back in the fence. The farmer came and I said, yeah, I drive a full-size pickup. Like, you're good. And he said, I cannot thank you enough, because if that farmer's cow had been hit by one of those idiots trying to drive around it, he would have had to pay a lot of money. Goes back to that penalty thing, right? He would have had to have paid a lot of money for the damage that his livestock caused. Uh-huh. And so it just very different in how, things are done, right? You hit a cow, you hit a cow on the back road in Tennessee, your uninsured motorist insurance actually covers it.
Yep. Yep.
Like, do you have to find the guy that owned the cow? No, because when you report it to your insurance, the uninsured motorist actually covers livestock.
Well, yeah, and so does your collision, your comprehensive and your collision. So
it does, but here's a trick. If you hit a deer, you want it to be covered as an uninsured motorist, not your comprehensive collision, because your deductibles are different.
Well, yes, my deductibles are pretty low, so I'm good there. But we do have a couple of people in the chats who have stated that they too would have had either a full-sized truck or an SUV over there as well.
And what you learn is you learn how to allow people to pass you, right? Mm-hmm. And then every once in a while you learn how to play the game of chicken.
Right.
Because if I'm far enough down this single track road and you're coming, I dare you, man. Come on. This thing is twice as wide, twice as tall, twice as big and heavy. You're going to be the one that moves first, and I'll wave and apologize, right? And you just make it work. But the interstates and the normal roads, the truck fits on it just fine.
Right.
So it's okay. The only time having that big full-size truck in Europe really comes back to bite you. At the time I was there, gas, you still had ration tickets for how much gas you could have.
Okay.
And it was dependent on your vehicle. They still sell gas by the liter. So if you're not buying gas on base, you don't want to drive a 15-mile to the gallon full-size pickup truck on standard European fuel prices.
Right.
You want to have the little...
Did they have a speed limit there?
Certain parts of the Autobahn do not. And I might have taken advantage of those in the full-size truck sometimes too, because,
No, I can't.
Well, yeah, because 2003, 2003, Dodge put a 5.7-liter Hemi V8 in a full-size pickup truck. And I was like, well, let's see what this thing will do.
That's fair.
So, yeah.
So how long were you then in Germany?
I was there for 4 years.
Okay. And then from there, where did you go?
So I wanted to go to Fort Campbell, Kentucky. My thought every time I tried to get to Fort Campbell was, if I'm not deployed, man, I can eat dinner with mom on Sunday. My parents are still in Middle Tennessee. This will be great. The closest I could get was I was stationed with a small unit that doesn't even exist anymore. It was an install unit. And so I was technically stationed at Fort Huachuca in Arizona, but I've never been there. So remember how much I told you I loved Augusta, Georgia?
Yeah.
Love
is a strong word.
Yeah, so I was stationed at Fort Huachuca with duty at Fort Gordon in Georgia. So 2 platoons lived in Arizona and 2 platoons lived at Fort Gordon, and that's where I was.
Okay.
So from there, it's a unit that didn't deploy, but we did TDYs. We would go do installs and then we would come home, which was kind of like that thing that the Navy had tried to offer me back in the day.
Right.
It's just that home is an apartment in Augusta, Georgia, instead of home is an apartment in Millington, Tennessee. Like it all made sense. And then if you're signal anything in any branch of service, or I guess now cyber,
Hmm.
anything in any branch of service, get used to Augusta, because all of your development schools, all of your everything is going to be Fort Gordon, Georgia. So, and it's, as a military member, it's not a bad place to live unless you're looking for a lot of things to do,
Right.
right? It's a lovely town with a lot of great people, but it's, it's not a Chattanooga, right?
Right. Exactly.
It's
Exactly.
not you're not in Germany where, hey, you couldn't find anything else to do, but Paris is only 4 hours away, right? Or you can't be a bunch of redneck boys saying, hey, we're stationed in Germany and I haven't eaten an actual American meal in a long time. There's a Hooters in Interlaken, Switzerland, and that's only about 4.5 hours away. We can all pile in a car, leave here for breakfast, and be down there eating Hooters for lunch. Those are the kinds of experiences, except in Augusta, it's going to be Savannah's only a couple hours away. Hilton Head's only a couple hours. So you can go do everything if you're willing to drive to it.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then
So,
where did you go from there? What happened
so
after that?
I stayed there for a while. I ended my military career there. So, um, what I didn't know, so I woke up one morning at Fort Gordon, and I had done a couple of TDYs, done some installs, come back, and I woke up one morning. The Army now has a thing that they call their signal battalions became expeditionary signal battalions.
Okay.
Part of my tasking in my final legs of my military career were I was one of the guys who built and certified the first expeditionary signal battalion.
Oh, wow.
Um, Obviously, there's a lot of people that outranked me by an awful lot who were the ones making decisions, but I was the guy that was the most experienced satellite guy, and so uh, it's what we did. So spent a lot of time in the field, a lot of time working with equipment, a lot of time trying to figure out how to set it up, change the way tactical communications work, new equipment, all new, fun, high speed stuff. But I woke up one morning and I couldn't feel anything in my arm below my left bicep.
Oh, wow.
And when I went to sick call, they said, "What hurts?" And I said, No, you don't understand. I'm in my 30s and I don't let 19-year-olds outdo me anywhere. Everything hurts, but I can't feel any of this anymore. And it was their first vision of what was wrong with me was I had really bad carpal tunnel syndrome. Okay.
Okay. That would cause a lot of numbness.
So they did a carpal tunnel surgery. I was on convalescent leave, and the camera doesn't show it. I'm 6'1", 285. I have a 22-inch neck. I'm not a normal sized human being, apparently. And I didn't fit in the MRI machine. But because there was a trip coming up that I wanted to get on, the doctor at Fort Gordon kind of fast tracked some of my stuff, even though they had to send me off post for a open MRI. What I didn't know was that my open MRI results that are going through a civilian side to come back on post hadn't made it back yet. When they made it back, I got a phone call from a very angry doctor who said he needed me in his office immediately. And I'm like, can first thing tomorrow be okay? I can leave right now and drive all night, but I'm in Columbia, Tennessee. He said, yes. Went in his office and he said, why didn't you tell me that you had broken your neck? And
Oh, goodness.
you got the wrong guy. And the name doesn't sound familiar, but
Okay.
that doesn't mean that I'm really bad with names. I'm a visual person.
Jim, that's for you, for Jennifer
Yeah,
McClaffey.
yeah. And in my career field at the time, there weren't a lot of women. Like I went through AIT with one girl. Basic was Fort Benning. There were none. There was a nurse, and she would come by and stick us with needles and leave. She was the meanest human being alive. Um, so maybe, but I don't. So I go through the process. What I found out was I had broken C1 and 2 and 5 and 6,
Oh, wow.
but I didn't know it. And because I didn't know it, I didn't do anything about it. And so when it healed, my C-spine shifted slightly. And so I am an anomaly. Yes, I had horrible carpal tunnel, but I also have pinches at the very top.
Wow.
And so like now, like when you and I talked before, I told you about like there's no muscle. That hand right through there, that's just skin now. The
Right.
muscular atrophy is going through both hands. So I haven't felt my hand since like 2009.
Oh, goodness.
So which is really good if you go eat Mexican food, because when they say hot plate, you can go, yeah, stop. Give me that.
I suppose
Really
that's
convenient.
true. Right.
Gotta find the silver lining in everything, right?
That's right.
But like I also drink out of sippy cups because I drop things. So so the Yeti magnetic closure thing is really cool to have. What I didn't know, redneck me, when the doctor said it is what it is, and I said, well, just re-break it. We'll set it. We'll be fine. And he goes, that's not how necks work, man. This isn't your nose or your finger. And he said some other stuff because we had kind of had a little bit of a rapport at that point, right? And he let me know that I was a dumbass. And, I said,
You
well,
don't know what you don't know. So
I'm not a doctor, so yeah, let's do that. What I didn't know when he told me that was he was basically saying your Army career is over.
Right.
I didn't realize it. The trip that was coming up that I was supposed to go on, I didn't get to go on. I got to go to the airfield and say goodbye to those guys. And that was the first regret and the first pain I felt in my military career. Like
That
I'd
had to
lost,
be difficult.
like I'd seen people get hurt. I'd seen people, right? But you rationalize it, right? You lose a friend. Man, we knew the game we were playing, right? That was me letting people down. And when I go back, my whole reason for being here is I'm emotionally connected to selfless service, right?
Right.
So it was that day that I felt it for the first time ever, and I hated everything about it. Wound up being transitioned to a warrior transition battalion.
Okay.
And man, I understood why it was there, but it was very early in the warrior transition battalion days, and there's a huge difference in the way active Army NCOs and reservists and National Guard NCOs live. You're especially at like a Fort Gordon, because Fort Gordon is technically a TRADOC base, so there's trainees everywhere.
Right.
So the idea of relax, let go doesn't exist, because you're going to run into somebody that you, so when I got there, I was just more Army than the Army that was working with me.
Right.
And so there were some bumps initially in the Warrior Transition Battalion, but we got through them. I went to Fort Sam Houston to fight what was told to me as a medical retirement. And I said, stop. I said, guys, everybody, full stop. I know this career field well enough. You can put me in a building with no windows where all I do is watch lights blink. Now that's the 30,000 foot view of it, right? It's more
right.
than that, but I don't want any SATCOMers to like send me hate mail. I know what the job is, but from the outside looking in, that's the job, right? Yeah. So I can do that without any other issues. And they said, well, unfortunately, you're a soldier first, your MOS is secondary, and you'll never be able to soldier again. and the way they explained it, I realized standing there, because I always felt, man, I can fall down, but I'm gonna get up. You can knock me down. I'm gonna get up. I'll screw up, right? Because everybody does, but I can humbly work my way through this, right?
Right, right.
It was when I was standing in front of that board at Fort Sam Houston and them telling me, it's over. I'm like, but I, no, there's nothing I can say or do. And they said, unfortunately, we know what your medical future looks like. This condition that you're in today is not the condition you're going to be in 5 years. This doesn't get better. It gets worse. So, no, we cannot keep you here. They said, if you really want to do this, there are civilian positions, and you're right, you can do those in a wheelchair. So, your soldiering is over.
Wow.
So I tell people who got out, there were 2 hard days in my Army career. The first one is when I told people goodbye that I was supposed to be going with. And the second one was when they told me it was over, because I didn't get to leave on my own terms.
Right.
Those 2 days were the hardest. Everything else in the middle, there was a lot of stuff that if I tell you it was easy, it'd be a lie, right? But it's easy because you do it together. We have you're doing it not for you.
Right.
Right. So my separation from the military, I had one saving grace. I had a girlfriend at the time who is now my wife, and it has been for a while. She still puts up with me. I don't know why. She has horrible taste in men. I mean, I get it. I'm a looker and I can be the trophy husband, but
There you go.
everything else is, she puts up with me and I love her for it. But the truth is, if it wasn't for her, like in the days following that decision, she said, where do you see yourself in 6 months? And I said, that's easy. Baghdad. I mean, it was still early. I mean, there was still big contract money, right? I'm like, I can go sit in an air conditioned box in the desert for a couple $100,000 a year. Easy.
Right.
And she looked at me and she said, well, what if you didn't? And I kind of looked at her and was like, I don't even understand the question, because I've had 2 careers. I've worked in law enforcement and I've been a soldier, and I've never actually applied for like a real professional job.
Right.
Right. I don't even know what that means. So I said, I'll tell you what, I'll give you 6 months. And if at the end of 6 months, I still haven't found anything, then I'll make a phone call and we'll talk around, because she had never been a soldier's girlfriend, never been. She didn't set it as a goal. The same way I tell people I'm not a good civilian because I never set being one as a personal goal.
Right.
I don't feel like I'm failing at being a civilian when I suck at it. I'm not a good civilian. I don't even know what that means to be a good civilian, but I'm clearly not one. So we worked it out, and after the military, I met some people, got recruited to go to work in the firearms industry, and like they say, the rest is history. And so I never went back. But
And
it was
so what are you doing today? What are you working on today?
So now I am a consultant. I spent enough years in the defense and outdoor. Outdoor is a nice way of saying I worked for a lot of gun manufacturers. I spent enough time making a lot of people for a lot of other, making enough money for a lot of other people, right?
Yeah.
And I realized a couple of years ago that I don't have to work as hard making that kind of money when the only table I'm trying to put food on is mine. And I am a glutton for punishment in that I love the entrepreneurial spirit. I love when a group of people come together around a small idea
Hmm.
and I get to say no, because if I don't believe in your mission, I just say no, I'm not interested.
Yeah, it sounds
Um,
fair to me.
if I don't want to work with you, I won't. And get to tell companies no. But if you are a startup and you're trying to figure out what hat to wear, and you're trying to figure out how do you get to this next place, me or somebody like me or who you're looking for, who's been doing it long enough that we know the why
Hmm.
people do things the way they do them, and how to get you to that next step. And that's kind of what I do. And it is, sometimes it's just leadership information, a lot of times it's the insights to what the market looks like. um, if you're on the defense side and you have a product, I've seen a lot of crazy things that people thought the military needed, and then I've seen some things that were absolute game changers, right? And then it's, how do you introduce? Well, I still have the connections, I can still get people in front of the right audiences and know the where are the decision makers that actually affect change. And one of the things that I tell people is the user still matters.
Right.
The user matters more than anybody else.
Well, yeah.
But the same reason Lucky Charms doesn't actually, um, they don't run ads geared at mom and dad, right? When you go to the grocery store, your kid wants Lucky Charms because the marketing that was put around it is geared to the kid.
Correct.
The kid is going to make a lot of noise in the cereal aisle, and you're going to either say yes to buying Lucky Charms, or you're going to be the mean parent who now has a crying kid, right? That's
Hmm.
their marketing strategy. In the right fields in the military, the user still matters in that very same way.
Yeah.
Now, you got to get to the contract officer, you got to get to the ultimate decision maker. But if the users aren't asking for it, it'll never be there. So, you can pay a lot of money in Washington, but if the first guy that picks it up on the R&D development process looks at it and goes, "This is junk," all your money is wasted.
Yeah.
So,
So tell me a little bit. Now we've had a conversation. I
yeah,
met you through Goals
yes,
in Knoxville,
yep,
and so tell me a little bit. I know we had the conversation, as I said, about um, service dogs, because I know that you are very involved
yeah.
with service dogs.
I'm not just I'm not just a salesman, but I'm a customer. So 2013, yeah, I think it was 2013. No, it was 2014. 2014, I had a friend drag me to a hunting trip in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina. It's technically outside of Myrtle Beach, but um, and I didn't want to go, but it was with a charity called Special Operations Wounded Warriors, and it was a family. Like, I'd never seen uh, a group of people taking care of veterans like that. It was, um, well, I felt like I was home, right? So I went on that one, went to that hunt, hung out, spent the better part of a week down there with them. Um, the next year came along, I was invited back. Next year came along, I was invited back. Well, I kept seeing guys with service dogs, and I was getting a lot of enrichment from the program itself, right? Like, people are there, and it's just really and truly, when we're going through a bunch of crap, it's talking to people and realizing that you're not the only one to ever face this is an eye opener for a lot of people, right? So I realized that with the issues I was facing, that a dog was probably in my path. Like, I've always been a dog guy, you know. Um, I grew up in a house with my dad's father had lost a hand in a hunting accident. So I grew up in a house where I wasn't allowed to have dogs. Mom had somebody get bit in the face. Wasn't allowed to have guns. Wasn't allowed to have motorcycles. right now in my house, I have 3 dogs. I don't have a motorcycle anymore but I've had motorcycles for years. And there's more than 3 guns. And that's the technical legal answer in case my wife's listening. So as we go forward, I've always thought that dogs were cool, but I saw dogs work in a way that I'd never, not in law enforcement, not in military. I'd never seen a working dog do what these dogs were doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I started asking people questions, and then I had a conversation with a guy. And because I don't fully meet the SAL mission, because I was never in special operations, they were welcoming me to the family, but they can't spend any money on it, right? Well, when I opened up to one of the guys and said, look, here's my issue, here's what I'm going through, and here's what I'm facing, and I think a dog's the answer. Do you know anybody? He goes, yeah, I do. Well, in the meantime, what I didn't realize is that they were actually grooming me to become a board member anyway. So I became a board member at SAL. And basically what that means is I would still help them any way they needed to, but now I really help them and still don't take any money because we're all volunteers. So I met another charity, and what I wanted was, yes, I want a service dog, but I want that service dog, the same one that Sal gives, because I've never seen a dog work or act like that. My personal dog that I have today does not know what it is to get a treat. She doesn't know what it is to have a toy. I don't pay her to work for me. She works for me because of the spiritual bond between handler and canine.
Right.
Like right now, she's in another part of the house with my wife, and my wife can play with her. But if I walk past or leave the room while they're playing, she gets up and follows me. If I go to the shower in the morning and she's drinking or eating or whatever, she will come. And when I getting out of the shower, she is laying at the base of the shower. Like, we don't separate. So that bond is very important. And so the canine program at SAL is the most impactful thing that we do. Because if I send you on a outdoor retreat, which is what we call hunting, therapeutic outdoor retreat, we go hunting and fishing, but there are people that don't believe hunting and fishing is a good idea. So I'm sending them on a therapeutic outdoor retreat. Do with that what you will. Well, you go for the event, you're around your brothers and sisters, and when you go home, you have memories of the event, but there's not a reminder.
Right.
Right. We have mental health components, and they last how long they last. And if you take the right tools away and you apply them, I can't wake up in the morning and not have a Dutch Shepherd in a crate beside me that's saying, it's time for me to go to work, Dad. So for the life of that dog, she is there. Mm-hmm. Now, when a veteran talks to me about, does he or she want a service dog? I start with the downside and tell them, if you're still in this conversation, when I'm done telling you why you don't want a service dog, then I'll tell you why you do.
Right.
But you got to get through the bad first, right? So you go out in public, everything I do, I only have one hand.
Right.
Because I have a dog in my left hand. All dogs will bite. In fact, the way it was explained to me is, if you see a living, breathing dog, proof that it bites is that it eats. That's how it's living and breathing, right?
Right.
All dogs will bite. A dog that is spiritually bonded with its handler, regardless of breed, will defend that handler.
Yeah.
So I have a Dutch Shepherd that can and will, if that is what life requires her to do. Now, the question is, do I leave it up to her devices, or do we train it so that she knows to take that advice from me and not on her own decision?
Right.
And that is, we train it, right? But I have the responsibility now of walking through life with a dog and knowing which way the gun is pointed when I'm standing in line at the grocery store, paying for my groceries, and where the little kid that walked up that thinks it's cool to put his finger in the dog's butthole. Or if the dog is turned around, yeah, it says do not pet all over the dog. It says service dog all over the dog. But does that kid know that?
Right.
Right. So there's that. You're going to get questions from people. You're going to see fear in other people's eyes.
Yep.
You're going to, last year I traded vehicles because my dog is not destructive in any way. She's never, other than a sock that she licked a hole in, and my wife still won't forgive her for it. Because it wasn't mine, it was hers. She has never broken or chewed anything trying to damage it. But every time I would put her in the back seat of my car and I would get her out, she would try to help me open the door. And she does it every morning when it's coming out of the crate. I open the door and there's a paw, one push. Multiply that times 3 times a day for ever how many days a year you leave the house. And now you have a scratched up door.
Right.
Right. So I now drive an SUV that has a dog box in the back, and it's tied down to the floor. And so it's crash rated. Gunner Kennels. If y'all are out of Middle Tennessee, Gunner Kennels is great. They donate to us. They're like fantastic human beings, and they make a great product. I own a couple. And they're crash rated. So if I am rear-ended and she's in a box that is certified for that, but that also keeps her from messing up my car. But you realize there are burdens. A lot of your guys who listen, everyday carry items are normal for grown men. Like, I carry a flashlight every day. I don't know why. I carry a pen every day. I don't know why. I carry a lighter. I've never smoked in my life, but I still carry a lighter, and I don't know why. Carry a knife. I can't leave the house without a roll of poop bags.
Yep.
I do know why.
Yeah.
Right. There will be, and she's very good, like on a schedule. Her diet's her diet. We know when we're going to the bathroom. We know there's still, oh, by the ways, this is an animal, and this animal is going to experience diarrhea sometimes.
Yeah.
I carry a water purifying bottle, and I don't give her tap water from any place but home, because I found the fastest way. You go to a restaurant, somebody's going to come by and say, would you like water for your dog? No, thank you. I'm not being mean to my dog. I don't want her to have diarrhea because your water is different than mine. Right? So I may give her bottled water while I sit there, but I can't let her have your tap water because different minerals in the water will give a dog diarrhea.
Yeah.
And so all these little things that add up to the negatives of why you don't want one, right? But then the do's. I hadn't been in a Costco in years. I don't know if you go to Costco regularly.
I do not.
Okay, so
but I'm familiar.
people in life don't respect interpersonal space.
True.
And I was in a Costco. It was around the holidays, and I had a full-blown panic attack. And when my wife was trying to talk to me, that was where it went. And when we got home, I hit I in tears. Please forgive me. That was not you. I'm not upset with you. That was not you. You don't deserve that, and I'm very sorry. And she understood. She's like, let's talk about it. Well, that day I thought, this is great. Not only did we learn something, but I never have to go back to Costco anymore. Nobody will ever ask me to go to Costco. My dog eats raw chicken.
Mm-hmm.
I buy her chicken at Costco and we're fine. We go together. In the military, you don't go alone. You have a person you're right and your left.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I don't know. I don't remember if you saw my dog in the booth at Goals, but she doesn't shut off.
Right.
Ever. So I can. right? So I still don't like people to get close to me. But if you have a pointy-eared Dutch Shepherd, she won't let people get that close because she'll
Right.
position herself between you and me, right?
Yeah.
And based on that human fear, it's the just going to say it the way I would normally say it. It's the crazy white lady who runs across the parking lot saying, "I want to pet your dog. I want to pet your dog," that still won't follow any of the rules, right?
Yeah.
Um, but I understand those people because I married one. My wife volunteers. She's on the board of directors for the local animal shelter. So she's like, "Tell me why I can't pet your dog." And I said, "Well, when we're at home and the vest's off, you can, because she's my dog. She'll listen to me." But then I took her to the farm in Canada where they're raised and trained, and she experienced. She's like, "Oh, I get it."
Right. Right.
Right? She saw, she understood, and but that's another component of this is, as Sal, we've had people who we've placed dogs with, and their spouse didn't get on board, right?
Right.
And it's more of a burden than an assistance because the spouse is anti. So when we're going through all of this, I tell people, man, you're a family. If you add a member of your family, everybody needs to be okay with it,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Like you wouldn't just go adopt another dog and bring it into your life without everybody being okay. So take your wife, let her see it, let her feel it, let her go through it. This is about y'all. And so the organization that I'm currently with is Special Operations Wounded Warriors. SAL. Why SAL? We're not affiliated with any other organization, although it kind of sounds like it. We were an acronym before we had a name. Our first event was, I wasn't there, but the first event for SAL was there were a group of landowners and hunters in the Myrtle Beach area that their hunting lease had a wild hog problem.
Oh,
And
wow.
so they said, why don't we get a bunch of guys? And we've got guys who are still there who were the founders, and a couple of them are still actively working in various places and things. And some guys were children of veterans, like, military brats growing up. And it's a mixed bag of people. But what we did have is, as we were going through the process, when they said, we need to put a name to this, we need to do this more regular. And they said, well, this is a hog hunt, sow. And then they figured out words that fit that, right? So, because Army, we love our acronyms.
Yes.
And so as you go through that, Special Operation Wounded Warriors was born. And for a long time, all we did was therapeutic outdoor retreats. That's all we did. And the guy who we lost a guy, double amputee above the knee. And when I met him, he walked better than I do. You would have no idea that he was an amputee if he didn't wear shorts.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Everybody on the board at the time would have counted him as their success story. Yes, Sal is a 501c3. And so as we go forward, his suicide was a learning moment for us, where we realized we're doing the right thing, but we need more tools, right? So the more tools was, we need a mental health component and we need a canine component.
Mm-hmm.
And we have an excellent partner. All of our dogs, all of them, come out of Canada. The breeder trainer is Baden Canine. It is unlike any other experience I've ever had, because Mike, the guy that started Baden Canine, a lot of veterans don't know this, but there are veterans from other countries too.
Oh, yeah.
Mike is a born and raised Canadian citizen who, during Vietnam, came over and enlisted in the United States Marine Corps.
Oh, wow.
Went to Vietnam, And then when he came back from Vietnam, he went home. The shortest version of that story is the way he tells it is he's not sure who should have been more scared, him or the passengers, because he was a taxi cab driver. He didn't start driving the cab until 2:00 every afternoon, but he was drunk every day by noon. And that's right after he came home from Vietnam. So he credits the dogs that he found with saving his life.
Oh, goodness.
And so they've had a strong connection to they sell protection dogs and military working dogs and law enforcement dogs, but their service dog program is near and dear to their heart. And so they do their service dog program. The dogs get more in-depth training. The placement is important, making sure the dog and the person match.
Right.
The stability of the dog, and everything is trained. And if you're a veteran and you get there, you're going to be treated like you're still in the military.
Nice.
They don't pull any punches. They will actually tell you, we give soldiers back their sword. It's your buddy, but it's the guy to the right and the left that you train to work with that's still there for you. And so we go through that. The problem that a 501c3 is going to have with a canine program like what we run is that this isn't an inexpensive program.
That's a big problem, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen some people who get dogs from the pound and put a little bit of training on them and put a vest on them. This is not that. This is a dog that is bred, trained from the time they separate from mama, their training starts. And, for us, we get a discount, and we still have about $35,000 into each dog we place. So, but you're going through this because you train the way they do, they treat you the way they do. Again, it's about the brother, right?
Right.
It's about the animal. And the wisdom from somebody who has worked from 1972 to today, raising and training dogs. He's probably good at it by now. Right?
I would say so. Yeah, for sure.
He's probably pretty good at it by now. I mean, and you see that family, his son is taking over, but his grandson is also heavily involved, and very faith-based organization, a Christian family who understands, when I finally met my dog Brielle, I met her on a Sunday at noon. Sunday evening at 6:30, I was walking through a casino in Canada with her to see if the lights, the sounds, the noises, and all the stuff were going to be. And she was right there with me. Wednesday afternoon, they came to me, gave me a hug, and said, "God put that dog on this earth to walk with you.
Wow.
She's yours." And it's that mentality, that thought process, that understanding why. And I tell everybody, if you are allergic to dogs, well, a service dog's not going to work, and an alpaca isn't going to go everywhere.
That's right.
I have a personal pet peeve with there's a plus and minus to everything. The Americans with Disabilities Act says you can pick your matched dog. You can certify and train your own service dog. In my heart, I love that, because it shouldn't be a barrier of entry. I know what my dog does for me, and I'll tell you a quick story after this. Money shouldn't be a barrier of entry for one of my brothers or sisters who are in need to have something that helps them through it, right?
Yeah.
The other side of that is, because it's so open, people are taking dogs and they're putting vests on them, and the dog has no training.
Yeah.
And it doesn't know how to work around other dogs. My dog lives in a house with two rescue animals. There's a 10-year-old German Shepherd and a 6-year-old boxer. And even though she could whoop both of them easily, she's one of the pack, because she understands they have a job to do too. And I don't know what it is, because I've never seen them leave and do it, but apparently they're important too. So we let them, and they work together.
Yeah.
Right now, the one thing that's funny is every once in a while, Normal dogs on a scale of 1 to 10. My dog starts at a 14 because she is truly a working Dutchie. And the boxer sometimes will remember, I want to play with you, until the Dutchie starts to play with her. And she's like, no, that's weird. I don't know why you're doing that right now, but please stop. So at almost 52 years old, my mother and father still live in Middle Tennessee. My mom has dementia. My dog is usually in bed every night between 9:30 and 10, which means I take her collar off of her. And if I give her the command to run to her crate or not, she knows I'm on my way to bed, Dad. Day's over. So, but one night it was about 11:30. Just been sitting watching a movie. I'm all by myself, and a YouTube video pops up that I'm sitting there scanning through the day, right? Just before I go to bed. And there's a daughter and her mother, and this grown, mature adult female sits down beside a older gray-haired lady, and the younger girl calls the older one mom. And the older one says, I'm not your mother, honey. And she shows pictures. And at one point you see the mom remember that she had a daughter. And then she remembered that the girl sitting to her side was her daughter. And it just hit me just right at the time. And I just started crying, right? I was thinking about my mom going through all that. My dog was passed out snoring. Before the first tear cleared like this area, because once they get in here, I don't know where they are. But before the first tear hit beard, my dog had sprung up, bounced, sat in my lap, and was staring at me and licked that tear off my face.
Aww.
The dog doesn't know what it can't do.
Right.
But it knows it's going to do everything I tell it and then some.
Yeah.
And when you see a service dog work, it's not about the party tricks. It's not about the stuff that you see in John Wick. My dog does all that stuff that I didn't think a dog would do. She does way more, climbing ladders, crawling under, crazy. It's fun to watch, but it's just work. It's about obedience and all that stuff. But the truth is, what she really does, you can't see. So we, when we're marketing this canine thing, I can't tell you how many people have said, well, I'd love to see what your dog actually does. And I said, if you had a year to live with me, you would eventually catch the cues and pick up on it.
Mm-hmm.
But if all you do, like, I don't have seizures. It's not like I'm going to fall down and start shaking and she's going to run over and cover me or grab something. That's not what she does.
Right.
She's got a different job. So, and then just as an closing expression, if you're a canine lover, me too. I love them. But I'm not going to walk up to you and ask you if I can lick your glasses.
Oh, that's funny. Yes.
When you see somebody walking in public with a marked service dog, just ignore it. The same way we ignore your glasses, the same way you would ignore crutches, the same way you would ignore. I get it. It's cute and I want to love on it too. But that dog's working. And the moment you distract that dog, you're taking away from its job. And so if you don't want to go throw rocks at the guys who are digging a hole on the side of the road because you're distracting them from their work, and they might throw rocks back. Some of them are cantankerous.
Yeah.
But just let that dog work.
Yeah.
And then the other program that we have, Operator Reset Week, and I'll touch on it briefly. Operator Reset Week is our attempt to completely understand what mental health needs, right? If I take an alcoholic away from the environment where they drink, it's really easy to get them to be sober. But if when I turn you out at the end of the week and say, all right, now go live in your home and be free, the triggers that were there are the same, are still going to be there when you get back. The difference is you. So if you get back there and you experience the triggers, they may still be there. Who knows if this money and time that we spend is working. So our operator reset week, we bring 6 guys, 5 or 6. I've been hitting ahead a few times, so sometimes I forget. 5 or 6 guys and girls. The media loves to tell you there's no women in special operations. Well, the women in special operations are really offended that they say that. So as you go forward from there, you put the 5 or 6 people, we bring the clinicians to a residential setting. And it's dietitians, it's physical therapy, it's all the things around, all the things that contribute to your mental health, right? And you work together for a week in a live-in environment. At the end, you get 5 or 6 weeks of telehealth with you and your spouse.
Oh, wow.
I haven't heard of Walk the Talk, but I definitely will look them up, because we have people all the time who don't fit the SAL charter. And one of the problems that we have is, if you were regular Army, it's not that I think you're less than. It's not that, I was regular Army, right? So it's not that anybody on our board thinks you're less than deserving of what we do. It's, I can only eat what's on my plate, right? And at the size we are, the special operations community is that's what we're able to handle.
Right.
So we don't want to open it up and let more people slip through the cracks. We want to be able to affect change as often as possible and as much as possible. The other side of that is, we have people who, because of who some of our other board members are, because of the jobs that a lot of us did, we have relationships in organizations where they can vouch for us. We understand when to say, when not to say. There are names of organizations that you hear on the media that, right? Army Special Operators. That's where it goes, right? And we just understand, and we trust, and they trust. And so
Right.
they're willing to open up with us because of that. But the problem is, I only have a couple of charities that I can actually recommend to somebody, because there's so many people out here. It's kind of like people who are just putting vests on a regular dog. Like you met it this morning and you didn't want to leave it at home, so you put a vest on it saying it was something it's not. There's a lot of people in charities that are there because, wait a minute, so I can start a 501c3. I don't have to pay taxes on this money. I can pay myself a salary from the money that these people give me to go do this thing. And we can talk for hours about some of those.
Yeah.
But, it's so, yeah. So the operator reset week, because we work with your spouse afterwards, it's kind of like taking your wife to the farm when you get a dog from us, in that your spouse knows what this program is.
Yeah.
So it's about us, right? And then our one flagship event a year, it's kind of our big, it's the hog hunt is still our biggest event of the year.
Oh, nice.
It turns into Old Home Week, essentially. We will have guys there from Vietnam to today. Every theater that special operators were in, regardless of whether the media ever reported it or not,
Mm-hmm.
somebody in that room will represent that. This last February, because it's in February every year, this last February, we fed almost 200 people on Saturday night.
Nice.
And
Excellent.
it's bringing brothers and sisters together, because I've learned military separation is not something that is unique to the military.
Right.
Athletes who are no longer athletes at a high level experience that same level of separation issue. Professionals who've been working their whole lives to be something, and then one day they pull the trigger on leaving, they have that same. So it's unique to us because it's military separation, but it's just a life change. Right. And figuring out, now what, right?
Yeah.
What am I going to do now? Well, if I don't know who Noel was, I don't know who Noel is. So you have to be able to figure out who you are and why that matters, and what you're into, to be able to go forward from there.
Excellent. So if anybody's out there in the chats who has a question for Noel, go ahead and put those in the chats for me now. A couple things that I highlighted to start, Noel. So Jason wanted to say thank you for your service and your time this evening to tell your story.
Listen,
Uh,
it's my honor. I appreciate it.
Jim also says thank you for your service, Noel. And let's see. So Ron Wayne had said he's got to go, but he did say thank you for your service. Angry Sarge. Now I don't know if you know. Yes, you know who Angry Sarge is. So he popped in and he said the WTU sucked, and he's not going to lie. During C19, it was absolutely terrible. I made sure to star those as we were going through because obviously, you know, everybody's got their things that, you know, were not fun. While we wait, what is from your mind you know, what would you tell to those individuals, male or female, looking to go into the military? What words of wisdom do you have? You know, just a 1 minute thing.
Yeah. So first and foremost, it goes back to what I said earlier, which is they're going to get everything out of you that they need. The most important part of joining the military is you need to get everything out of them that you need, right?
Yep, it's a contract, both sides.
It works both ways, right?
Yep.
Now, I'm at that stage of life where you're working with retirement planners and all that stuff and going through and seeing what the value of some of my benefits actually is. There was a thing that was told to young people many years ago, and that was, if you join the military today in one of these technical fields, you're going to have experience and far ahead of your peers. Well, that's no longer true.
Yeah.
The military now buys commercial off-the-shelf products, right? So if you're working, like as an example, if you go to warrant officer flight school and you're flying helicopters, you're going to leave with more flight time than anybody else. But you may not fly the type of helicopter that, like, you'll have more experience, but if they are coming up through the helicopter program, they may have a couple other things you didn't get, right?
Yeah.
On the communications end, the military specs their equipment to be a certain way, but it's the same equipment that you would find AT&T using these days.
Right.
Because that's where it's gotten to.
Right.
So the one degree field that I tell people, if you've got a son, daughter, whatever, if there's a golden ticket still available, and it's still a life of selfless service, and that's medical field. You can go to ROTC at most universities, and a university with an ROTC program come out with a bachelor's degree in nursing. You're going to commission as a captain. Well, I don't know if anybody's tracking, but we don't send nurses to go kick doors.
Right.
Right? The military medical system, you are going to have experience. I mean, the Army, when we're cross-training and doing stuff, I was able to do IVs.
Yeah.
If you go to a university someplace and they teach you to do IVs, you don't do them on each other. I mean, so there are things that the military medical system does that no civilian training does. You're going to have to be on a clinical, and the right thing's going to have to pop up for you to do your first sticks. We were 45 minutes into the class, and the guy's passing out the stuff, and we're getting ready to stick our buddy, right? So it's just the way it is. So you will have experience with things as a nurse or a doctor in the military that doesn't happen anywhere else. And
Excellent.
if you can retire at 45 years old and have all the benefits and then go work. I mean, so there are huge benefits to being in the military. And the last piece of this, we salute the position, not the person. The president is the commander in chief of the military. And even though it may be Congress that decides when you go to war, the truth is, who the president is only a 4 or 8 year stain on the history of America. Stains can be positive or negative. I'm not saying that just negative, right? It's a 4 or 8 year piece. In your 20-year career, you will like one commander in chief and you will hate another. But that's not why you're there. You're not there because you like your boss. You're there because you love the people beside you.
Yeah.
And so don't let somebody tell you, I wouldn't join the military now because so-and-so is president. Well, then you don't really understand who we are as soldiers and Marines and airmen and sailors. You really have no idea who we are.
Right. Well, Jim has a question. He wants to know, how many times have you doubled as Santa?
I never have. It's only been in the last couple of years that, so I shaved my head forever. I'm one of those long-haired guys. As my hair started to get gray, my high and tight got taller.
Mm-hmm.
Until I realized that the gray is coarse and there was nothing else I could do with it. So I told my wife when I met her, she didn't know that I had a full head of hair until I had surgery and was tied up like this. And she goes, you have a full head of hair and I like it. Oh, crap. So as it started to get gray and it got coarser and it changed, and it's very curly, I said, listen, I'm going to try long hair. And if long hair works and you still like it, because at the end of the day, if I catch her kind of giving me the side eye, then everything's good with me. It's when that stops that I got to figure out, do I need to lose weight? What am I doing? So, but I'm still very vain. So I had long gray hair, but I couldn't get past this being gray because the guy in the mirror, the guy who's looking at the guy in the mirror doesn't feel old enough to be this gray. Right. So I had to mature enough to where I'm like, no, it's just me. Just let it go. And then, I tell people when I took off my suit the last time is the last time I put on a suit.
There you go.
And so this is me saying, I'm retired. Leave me
no
alone.
more suits.
Right. And how are you going to be Grizzly Adams if you don't have a beard and long hair?
This is a good point. Well, I am not seeing any other questions out there.
Okay.
Noel, I want to say thank you very, very much for coming on the channel. It's been a pleasure and an honor to have you.
Always an honor.
And for those of you watching, my guest next week is going to be, I've got Dave Rogers, and he is Army as well. And that'll be 6 p.m. Central Time next Sunday night. So again, I want to thank everybody for joining tonight, and y'all have a wonderful rest of your week. Noel, hang tight for me.
Will do.